the Evolution Security Podcast.
We're excited to be offering our 16-hour defensive pistol and combatives and weapons integration course in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the 19th and 20th of November, 2022. Defensive pistol is a course focusing on a fundamental defensive pistol platform from the holster, moving into dynamic shooting principles, along with a primer in close quarters firing solutions. You will leave this class having a solid concealed carry shooting platform and also, most importantly, how to practice. The Combatives and Weapons Integration class provides the client with a foundational understanding of self-protection techniques and tactics that can prepare you for dealing with and surviving a violent assault. This class has a foundation in wrestling and jiu-jitsu and is for any practitioner of any body type or age. Lastly, at the end of the day, there will be a light validation exercise, or in other words, a light force-on-force evolution with a blue gun or a training blade, providing confidence in the techniques learned. To sign up for this course or for more information, go to the Eventbrite link in the show notes or go to our website at evosec.org and look in current events.
Welcome, everybody, to the Evolution Security Podcast. We have a really, really cool episode. I think, Eric, this is the first time we've had, two guests on at the same time.
It is the first. Yep.
And we've got two of the best pistol shooters in the world on the same show.
Absolutely.
So we'd like to welcome Mike Seeklander and Rob Leatham to the show. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great, man. Everybody's good.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having us. And Mike.
Well, it's an honor, guys. Well, so Mike, you've got basically, just give a little bit of information on you. So you've got basically too many state and regional titles to list here, but you've also got multiple national championships in both IDPA and USPSA, and you've got some world championships in Steel Challenge, and you just took high overall in 2019 in IDPA. Just some of Mike's accolades there, and we've also
technically the Steel Challenge was the production division title.
Okay,
and that was the 1 year that I beat Rob in the production division title at the Steel Challenge. I just want to point that out.
You beat me to a question, so.
I have no recollection of that, Mike. I don't remember that at all.
That was one of the questions I was going to bring up. That was one additional title that Mike had, which was beating the great one, Rob Leatham. And I was wondering how often he brought that up to you, Rob.
You know what? To be honest with you, he doesn't bring that stuff up as much as I do. So his level of humility is probably far greater than mine.
The real truth is I don't bring it up because you can't bring that up. And here's why. Because if I were to say I beat you at the production Steel Challenge, which he doesn't recollect or even believe happened, then he would ask me about the 26 single stack classic national titles or the multiple world challenge. He said there's no win there. That's like a dead end road. So I don't even drive down that road anymore.
He would just throw it back at you, huh?
Yeah, it's not. Sorry. Good luck with anybody else trying to match him on the win thing. So I've don't know if we know of anybody that could actually match that technically. I think he's still the most winning. He's the most winning shooter in practical shooting history, I think.
Well,
Probably.
and that's funny. That's kind of what I've got here. Basically, that yes, Rob, you're probably you have probably more national and international practical shooting titles than anyone in history, and that includes 8 IPSC World Titles and 34 national USPSA titles, and you're also captain of Team Springfield, and I forgot to bring up Mike being on Team Wilson Combat too.
That's right. Yeah, I am.
So
he's the Fuhrer of Team Wilson.
Excuse me.
So we've got some amazing shooters here, and Eric and I are just really excited to talk to two guys that we've looked up to and learned from afar, and we're looking forward to picking you guys' brain a bit here tonight. But Rob, I think this would be a really good opportunity to bring up a new pistol that Springfield Armory has released. And as we are recording this, I just found out about this pistol. I think it was last Friday, and I'm talking about the new Prodigy 1911 DS.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, the double stack 1911 isn't really a new thing,
Not at all.
but it's kind of, the market kind of has exploded with some other companies lately. But I'll tell you what, this Prodigy has me really excited because I've been interested in getting into this kind of platform. And it looks like Springfield has knocked it out of the park, and in a pretty good price point, too. Would you like to tell our audience a little bit about that new pistol?
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, there's nothing new about a double stack 1911. There's nothing really new specification-wise about ours. I think what makes it unique, or maybe outstanding, is what you mentioned, is the price point we hit. So we've been working on it for 3 or 4 years now. Nothing happens overnight when you're working on a new gun. And as we went into it, we discussed what price point we need to hit. We want to try to come in as cheap as possible, cut every corner we could, or did we want to come in at a premium price level? But there's so many guns up in that area, there was no reason to really fight that. So we kind of picked the middle, and the price changed quite a bit over the last couple of years. That's what we're going to try to hit. And then in the end, marketing guys come in here and say, here's the sweet spot. So $1,500, or I think that's what it is, $1,495 is the MSRP for it. And that's what we went with. And then you kind of fill the gun in feature-wise and spec-wise with what is profitable in that price range. And it gave us a little bit of room. And so we were able to introduce even something that's not new as far as the specification. It was new to us. So we had never built one of the composite frames, which has a polymer grip and a steel upper portion. We never built that kind of gun before. When we had high cap 1911s in the past, they were frames that were all one piece in steel and kind of hard to make, especially when you tried to make them out of forgings. And that's kind of what killed that project, is because it started becoming so expensive and difficult to make that we couldn't hit the price point we want. So that went dormy about, I'm old enough that when I think something was 3 years ago, it was 8 years ago, and so maybe 10 years ago, or whenever we really stopped selling those. So we'd always had that hankering to produce, a double stack, a high cap 1911, because our company is full of old school people that love 1911s. We produce a lot of other guns, but we love 1911s. It was the first pistol that we introduced when we came into the handgun market in the early 80s. And it had always been, that hope and desire to have a high capper. So when it came up that we should start doing it, and started the project, the goal was to make something that was good at a reasonable price. It was compatible with stuff that's already out there. That had to be important. And that's the coolest thing about a 1911. As long as you stay with the same basic firing mechanism, barrel assemblies, slides are basically the same, all that stuff, the aftermarket is just through the roof. So we knew that we couldn't produce a gun that would make everybody happy. So we made a good gun for the average guy. And then for somebody like, myself, you can take it to the moon. You know how 1911s are. You can start with an $800 1911, make it cost $10,000 if you want. But, so the gun is cool. It's got a bull barrel. Standard magazines are flush, which ain't flush like 1911 flush is. It's got the piece sticks out on the bottom. That's the base plate. That holds 17 and then 20, and there's a 26.
Wow.
So for 1911 people, especially from us and to us, it's like a whole brave new world, because we have a whole generation of people in the factory that really don't have high capacity experience other than the polymer, we say polymer gun. Now that doesn't work. The striker fired guns like the XDs. That's kind of where it came from. The hardest part of the whole project, I'll be honest with you, is I've had pre-production samples for over a year, and to be able to have those and not be able to show them to people or talk about it, it's just better not to give it to me. I have hated not being able to use them regularly.
Yeah, because you can't even take it to the range because you're just you can't display it or anything like that, huh?
No, so they became safe queens. So they sit here, and I messed with them, and I played with them, and I'd go out and shoot them by myself sometimes. And over the course of the year, there are 2 or 3 people who are here. Obviously my family, my wife, they knew about the gun, but nobody knew to ask any questions about it. So it stayed quiet. But now that it's out, I can shoot it all I want. So that's cool.
Well, I can tell you it's probably going to be my next pistol.
Cool.
I've been really looking at other options, and no joke. When I found out about this, I was sending messages to several people, including Eric, and saying, "Hey, check this out! What Springfield just dropped."
Yeah.
So, interesting enough. So when I look at it, I'm sometimes embarrassed to say, but I think I have one small Beretta. I have a little Ruger LCP.
Me too.
And I have a Smith & Wesson Model 15 revolver, and then the rest of my guns are all Glocks.
Mm-hmm.
So and I've been trying to make a move to a 1911, or I've been thinking about getting a Beretta from Langdon Tactical, but boy, this one came out, and it's like, okay, this kind of makes me want to change to the kind of 1911 side. Now, it does look like, basically, to the lay person, you've got the flared out polymer section of the grip, and then it flares down to basically a standard 1911 size slide and everything. I think you alluded to that, but maybe that's oversimplifying it.
No, that's correct. The frame dimensions, now 1911s aren't like, your Glocks or even XDs, where you can probably take 10 of them apart and put all the slides on all the frames. 1911s aren't really built that way. They still get put together. Some guy sits there and hand fits the slide and the frame a little bit. So they may not have that same kind of interchangeability. But specification-wise, if you look at the critical position of pieces on a 1911, where the hammer pin, where the sear pin is, where the flat spring sits, where the magazine is, where the magazine releases, where the trigger is, where the barrel sits in the slide, all that's just 1911. That's all compatible. Which should have made the engineering job real easy.
But the way you said that, you said it should have, huh?
Well, yeah, because there were things that we wanted. I mean, they wanted a certain look in the slide and the frame. They wanted the frame to be really long. So the dust cover, which is the accessory rail in this case, is very non-traditional 1911. It goes almost to the front of the slide, which gives you a lot of real estate to hang things on. So that really changed a lot of the dimensions of the slide and changed the weight of the slide. So all those things are a factor that you then compensate in another way by. Being a 9mm, there are, and the magazine completely different because it's going 2-to-1. That's really different in the lower portion of the gun. But once you get to the chamber area, it's all 1911. It's pretty easy. And we use bull barrels. And I can tell you the 5-inch Prodigy is the lightest kicking 9mm I've ever shot. But there's a reason for that. It's got a heavy slide and it's got a heavy barrel. And when you put 20 rounds of 9mm in the magazine, put it in the gun. It's not a light gun, even though the gun itself isn't any heavier than a standard 1911. But a single stack 1911 holds 10 rounds in the mag, right? When you put 20 in there, there's 10 more rounds and it adds weight. So the gun, recoilless is not the right word. It is the softest kicking pistol I've ever shot. Just and it kind of, it's math. It has to be big heavy slide, big heavy barrel, big heavy magazine in there. A lot of purchase area. The frame, it's a double stack frame. Gives you a lot of room to hold on to it. People with big hands, people like Mike, that gun fits them really, really well. Whereas there are a lot of people, you ever seen people put really thick grips on 1911s and things to try to make them bigger. The things that I love about a standard 1911 is it's skinny and small, because you wouldn't know this, but I have real small hands. That makes a really good platform for the big people.
Nice. Let's talk about an awesome training opportunity. We are super pumped to be hosting John Murphy of FPF Training for his Street Encounters, Skills, and Tactics class, the 5th and 6th of November 2022, just outside Fort Bragg, North Carolina. This class will teach life-saving material to include stop the bleed medical, pre-encounter management, pre-assault, proper pepper spray use and deployment, essential shooting skills, scenario-based decision-making, post-fight, and more. For tickets, go to our show notes and find the class link, or go to John's website, fpftraining.com, and look for the class in his course calendar. Well, gentlemen, to really hit on something that we had spoke with Mike the last time, and I'll just frame it this way because I really want to bring Mike in on this. Before going there, but when we were on pre-show, you guys like to banter back and forth. You guys, to me, from seeing the bigger circle video, which is outstanding, I'll just say this: I don't think there's a better instructional shooting video out there, and I hope that doesn't sound like hyperbole, but it really is. And I would like to hit on a little bit of the details, but from just earlier pre-show and then the way that you guys are on that video, you guys appear to be friends, Mike. Is that a proper assessment?
No, that is incorrect. We're not friends, not even close to friends, never, ever have been friends. No, yes, I don't know when Rob and we saw each other at matches years ago. I actually took one of his classes many years ago, and then we shot together for quite a few years on the circuit. So we had a pretty good, we knew of each other. Of course, Rob Leatham tends not to return phone calls, but when you get to know him good enough where he returns your phone calls or texts, I guess technically you start to become his friend. So he's been returning my phone calls and texts for many years now. We've spent hours and hours and hours together on ranges, practicing, hours eating. That's the other thing we do. Or going actually on drives. We used to go on drives when we were in St. George and look at pretty stuff and talk about shooting. And I would bug him and ask him lots of questions. So yeah, we're absolutely friends in my mind. Maybe that's not Rob's mind, but he's also probably one of my premier mentors in terms of shooting. I've been put down many times by him and learned a lot. But he's one of my mentors as far as shooting, one of my biggest mentors, because I have extracted a lot of information from that very small brain of his.
Well, you know what? You describe our time spent together as hours. To me, it seems like years, if not decades and lifetimes. But the reality is there's a certain mutual respect here that you may not come through. And people I don't like, as I kind of alluded to, I don't really talk to. I don't have time for that in my life. And I have a few friends, and Mike's one of those people that we've grown closer than friends, only because, we've had business dealings. And like you mentioned, the bigger circle thing. Well, that was a genius idea on my part. Bringing him in, we're not sure about that. I'll let you know later. However, if you like it, anything you like about that's because of me. And if you didn't like it, it's got to be Mike. Well, that kind of tells you the relationship we have at this point. Having shot against him for when was the class? When was the class in Wisconsin or in Chicago?
Oh, I don't even remember the year, man. I mean, I guess I was an air marshal then, so it had to have been just after 9/11, because remember, America's favorite SEAL was there, who's rest in peace, and a couple of guys. So that must have been 2002 or 2003.
Has it been that long ago?
Yeah, man.
Well, in 20 years, I still haven't figured out how to say no to you. Wow.
Yep, that's right.
Amazing. Well, so that started it off, and Mike. What you won't know about Mike is that Mike's genuinely a humble person and wants to know more than he wants to be right. And that's one of the things it takes for somebody that's really looking for the answers and the level of performance to get to, the upper levels of performance and how hard it is to get there. And what drew me to Mike was not that he asked me a lot of questions, it's the kind of questions he asked, if that makes any sense. The things he asked me were intriguing questions. It wasn't like, hey, do you look at your front sight when you shoot or something like that. It was stuff that was well formulated that made me think he was ready. He was thinking at a higher level, right? It's not a skill thing at that point. I mean, it is and it isn't. Mike's tactical skills, his technical skills are exceptional, but that desire to learn is something that I don't know if I'll ever stop feeling this way about it. But as soon as I stop learning, I'm probably done with this, because it's too much work. The only thing that drives me is the things I don't know. And I don't know so much that's how the relationship developed. Is he would always ask questions that I had to think about the answers, as opposed to, just knocking something out that you'd heard 100,000 times before. And so that's what started our relationship. And then when we did the bigger circle thing, that was really a culmination of us coming from different backgrounds. And I'll let Mike tell you about where his background was, but my background was all competition. Although I grew up shooting and carrying guns from the time I was 8 or 9 years old. I had pistols. I owned pistols when I was 12 years old. I really don't remember not shooting, and all I ever wanted to do was shoot, and pistols were all what I was mostly interested in. And then I got good at it, and then people wanted to know why. And that's what got me into the training element. But Mike comes from a complete different direction. We ended up in the same room, but he came through the left side door, and I came through the right side door. I mean, Mike should tell you where his backstory is, because it's more interesting than mine.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know some of mine. I mean, I was in the military and then in law enforcement, and competitive shooting to me was just kind of a way to test myself against the best shooters and learn how to perform under pressure. And I mean, I love to compete. I'll never ever say I'm as good as a competitor as Rob has been over the years. I probably will never get to that level. But I love to compete. I just love to try to do better and figure out how to do things under pressure, which I'm still trying to figure that stuff out. I still find myself doing stupid stuff under pressure. And but that was my angle and approach. But, we were both into competitive shooting. And, I don't know if we've talked about this I don't think we've ever talked about this on a podcast, but the bigger circle was an idea over dinner. Rob's like, hey, let's teach a class together. And he's maybe throughout, we'll call it like the circle, or everything's in this big circle. Like, all these shooters that they think they're separate, the tactical guys, the defensive guys, the competition guys, they all think they're separate, but the things we teach them to shoot fast and accurately are all the same. So they're all in one big circle. And I think that's where one of us said, let's call it the circle, or the big circle, or the bigger circle. And the name was born. And fast forward, I don't know, probably a year down the road, and the bigger circle class is scheduled. And we show up, and the pre-planning with Rob is like this. Hey, what do you want to do? Oh, I don't know. What do you want to do? I'm like, well, I normally follow a guide, like a list of things. And he's like, okay, yeah, we'll just follow your list.
He's way worse than a list. He wants he wants it.
Well, I want to have a plan.
Yeah.
Rob doesn't want a plan because he just wanted. And so, I mean, I'm like, okay. So finally, he kind of defaulted to my plan. He's like, okay, just do what you do, and then I'll add some things to it. So. And it's evolved a lot since then. And I have to say that I have learned to be critical about how I look at things and specifically describe things. We can get into that in detail with words. But, I would get up in the very first class. This isn't like this anymore. We have a pretty good flow. We have some good banter. But I would teach something, and then Rob would walk up and say, and I'm not joking, he would say, okay, that was somewhat right, but let me tell you how to do it the right way. or even that was mostly wrong, but let me show you what he talked about that was right and teach you. And, he was kind of being humorous and trying to get me to lighten up, and I eventually did, but I was pissed off in the first class on the first day. And then after that, it got really fun in the current classes. We go around and around sometimes because we think we owe everything to our students. I know we both believe we want to give everything. We want to use very precise words and teach them it very precisely. So if one word is off and Rob doesn't like, or we're still critical on each other. He's probably more critical on me because that's just how he is. And I accept the fact that I'm learning, but it was rough in the first class. I'm not joking. It was really intense there.
I walked up behind him once and he was explaining something. He got something wrong. And I walked up behind him. I said, okay, so you can do it like that if you want, or you can do it the way the winners do it.
Right. That's right. He doesn't cut it. He doesn't even pull any punches, which is good. I'm like, okay, why would we pull punches? We're all here to get better. The students are there to get better. And I'm like, you know what, man? You better suck it up and humble yourself because you're going to get better. You're teaching with Rob Leatham. So there might be some things that he knows.
The egos have to go. The egos have to go. I expect it from students. I expect it from myself. We all have to take the criticism because the reality is the learning process requires exposing your worst, not your best. I don't care about your best. Where are the weaknesses? Where are the problems? And we've evolved as instructors over the decades, and there has to be a certain amount of truth that's more important than your comfort or your ego is. And that's where we've arrived now. People probably think it's a comedy show, but it's not. It's real. When I walk up there and say, okay, he's wrong about that. Let me tell you what you should look. I'm not saying it, but what I'm doing at that point is I'm trying to create clarification. I'll give you a case in point. Mike's never said this. He's way too smart for this. But a lot of people would sit there and say, hey, make sure you focus on the front sight when you shoot. Who has not told somebody that or made sure that they were trying to do that? The problem is that's a shortcut. That is a shortcut to a point where you've gotten to that you really meant create alignment, recognize alignment, ensure alignment before you fire the shot. Now, if you want to look at the front sight, the target, the dot, the rear sight, I don't care. But unfortunately, we've trained a whole generation of people now that think that all they have to do is see the front sight. So Mike and I spend a great portion of our classes getting people to aim instead of look at the front sight. So the words matter. And that's the point.
We're honored to have Keepers Concealment as a sponsor of the show. If you have a modern Appendix carry holster, it was probably influenced by their original keeper. So you owe it to yourself to check out what they have to offer for your EDC needs. Also, Spencer Keepers is a top-notch trainer. I've taken his AIWB skills class and highly recommend it. Go to keepersconcealment.com where you can buy a holster, sign up for one of his excellent classes, or inquire about hosting him in your town. For any Keepers Concealment products, use Evo Twins at checkout for 10% off. Also, Keepers Concealment is a proud affiliate of CCW Safe. They offer proven legal defense coverage if you had to defend yourself against a lethal threat. Go to keepersconcealment.com/CCW-safe to find coverage that meets your needs.
Well, and if I could interject there, Rob, I think what you guys do in this video, because Aaron and I are not even a scintilla your guys' shooting levels. We are decent shooters. And when you start to realize that there is a continuum between what is acceptable for a certain shot and the distance of that shot, how that all changes. And you guys do a phenomenal job of explaining that, but not just because your guys' understanding of that is going to be different than mine or Aaron's, or especially newer shooters.
Right.
But then again, there's still that discovery process of what's necessary. And in the period of a video, you guys make it understandable. And I think that's why folks need to get this video, and more importantly, make it to the class. Like Aaron and I, we're going to make it to that class the first chance that we get, or maybe we try to host it here in the Bragg area, or even, well, Mike's in Tulsa, so he may not want to do it in Tulsa. But we need to talk offline on that, how we might be able to make that work. But yeah, I just wanted to really make sure that from a consumer's standpoint of that piece alone of the aiming of the gun and the spectrum that you guys explained so well is one of the most important parts of the video. And there's so much to it, though. So yeah, thank you guys for that.
Well, and it's the little details like that. I don't like labels much, especially when we start valuing the label more than we do the content, because aiming's critical. Looking at the front sight is a portion of that. It's only a small portion, and creating alignment is the hard part. And we kind of just brush right over that. And that's just one piece of a bigger picture. Shooting's really pretty simple. It's not that complicated. Point gun at target, hold gun on target, pull trigger without moving the gun. I mean, it's really that simple. And repeat the process. The problem isn't understanding the concept. The problem is doing it. And then when you add the pressure or an adverse environment or speed or the criticality of hits and, more important, misses, when you add all those components to it, that's when it gets hard. And I think people haven't looked far enough ahead. People always ask me, why the hell would a tactical group bring you in to teach them? I mean, all you do is go out and win matches. Yeah, but they've looked at it from this standpoint. They said, wait, what is it you're actually doing? You're shooting under pressure. And gunfight's not the same as a timer. Everybody knows that. I'm not saying it is. But it's the closest we can get, because people want to beat each other so bad. Mike will tell you, when we shoot against each other, I want more than anything else to beat him, and he wants more than anything else to beat me. So if we separate out what the processes are to allow us to perform at our highest level, we're most likely to shoot better than the other guy. And my days of beating Mike are probably over. He's reached a point in his skill level, and I've reached a point in my age that I certainly cannot run him. And he's stronger than I am. His hand-eye coordination is better than I am. His visual skills he's a decade behind the degradation I'm at. And so I'm probably never going to beat him again. But every time we shoot, you know what I'm going to try to do?
Beat
him. Every single time. Every time. And because the drive to do it, even when I fail, is what keeps me out there. And I think a lot of people are looking for different things out of it. So when I teach a tactical group, they want to know how to shoot under pressure. They don't want to know how to win a match. That's not what the point is. Well, Mike teaches, when he was a FAM instructor, he created some of the best shooters in the nation. And I don't know how much of that he can talk about and who the people were, but the reality is it's true because we know who they are. But the whole bigger circle thing was, wait a minute, you're telling them to do this in a tactical situation. You're telling them to do this in a defensive situation. And we're both telling them to do this in a competition, and it's the same thing. That's where the weird part is it's really not different. The application is different. In a match, I can miss, and nobody gets hurt, right? As long as I'm safe, right? I can miss a target, and it's a penalty. In a real-life situation, missing can be catastrophic. So, I mean, there's a ratio of when the accuracy to the speed is more important. And that's what we've become good at. So,
awesome, Mike. You got anything else to add to that?
No, the bigger circle concept is very simple, like he said. But boy, the points we teach are so detailed. Like, when we talk about structure, which leads up to your hands on the handgun, but it starts on the ground. Even in class, Rob and I will find ourselves picking on each other because we're getting too wordy, or we have this little buddy, we'll mention Travis. It's like, you need to keep it to 5 minutes or whatever. And here's the real truth is, it's not because we want to be in front of the group. Like, I want to be in front of the group more than Rob. We just we have so many words to try to say to them to make sure we don't miss telling them something.
Right.
because there's so many little details and all of it matters to an extent. So I think we've distilled handgun shooting down to its finest details. And some people, to be honest with you, some people maybe get bored with that. They want fancy, flashy, whatever else. But if you want to learn how to run a gun fast and accurate, the details I think are distilled in that class. And of course, then the video series was just like, hey, we should put this on video. We should do this video series. And that in itself was quite a challenge. The schedule was a challenge. The filming was a challenge. We stayed in the same house together. Rob was ranting and raving and pissed off. We were hot and burned out. I mean, it was we were there, 8 days? We taught a class, shot a match, taught another class or some crap like that. And then filmed the series.
So how long was, and maybe we talked about this last time, Mike, but did you guys do the filming over the regular duration of what the class would be, or did you guys, because of filming purposes, did it extend a little bit?
Well, the normal class is 3 days. When we did the filming project, we had actual students, but they were actor students. So they weren't acting, but they knew that they were in a video series. Yeah. And that took us about 2.5 days. So we compressed some of it. We shortened some of maybe the drill repetitions, where we may, like Rob may hone in on one shooter for a longer period of time. We knew we had to keep moving, but it was pretty close to, if you watch the video series, you have experienced the entire class.
Yeah. Well, and if I could add something, I just want the audience members can kind of see this. So this is some of my notes from the video. So you can see how detailed I got in my notes. And that is how I'm just giving that as a visual to our audience members, that's how detailed that video series is. And I will add to the audience members as well, and I said this the last time in episode 60 with Mike, is one of the best things you guys do is you guys do the summary at the end. So it summarizes all the main details and what I like to call the mental cues that are so crucial. Because a teacher, a master teacher like you guys, of course I'm going to call you guys master teachers, take a complex skill or technique and articulate in a mental cue or mental process that's easy to understand and then apply. And you guys do that excellent in the video. So, yeah.
Well, one thing just to add for the public, because I don't think we've talked about this either. First of all, the first round of edits, it was not that good. And two things happened. Rob is incredibly picky, really, 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 really picky, because this is his first video series. Think about that. And then his wife, Kippy, is very, 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 very picky as well. But she came into the equation, and like in the video series, those end bullet points and the little pro tips along the way, those things, they didn't stand out as well until she got more involved in the edit. And to be honest, Rob and I filmed it a little bit more of on a budget. We could have had 3 more cameras there. We should have had a sound crew and a light crew. We learned from that, but we pulled it out. I think the video series is fantastic, but I want to give credit to Kippy and her. She spent hours in the final edit making those bullet points stand out in the video and little things that may not have stood out as cleanly. And thanks to Rob too, because he's like, there's one point where I'm like, I want to get ready to release this. He's like, it's not ready. We're not doing it. And we stopped and we went back and re-edited
the whole thing.
Oh my God, every video. It was crazy. Wow. But I'm really happy we did that. That was another one of my, wrongs. Take more time to do it better.
No, it wasn't. Nothing was wrong. It's just, it was our opportunity to be really, really good. I mean, we're not talking do an excellent part. We were trying, I wanted the information I want it to stand up when we look at it 10 years from now. I don't want to go back and say, God, I wish we hadn't said it like that. I wish I hadn't said it like this. And when Kippy started cutting into the pieces, all those things you mentioned, those bullet points at the end, that was all my wife saying, like, listen, you guys are just overloading them with information. And there's no way for them to keep track of this. I mean, you have to stop it and replay it 10 times to catch the key words that are being said. That was all her. So she did a good job on that.
Well, tell her thank you and just let her know how impressed I was with that piece because, yeah, I think that was money for certain.
Hey, baby, good job on the editing.
Good job, Kippy.
But yeah, without beating the dead horse, that was both a labor of love, and a very stressful circumstance. That was more effort and work put in to do that than it was to win a national world title. I can tell you that. So.
Very nice.
Yeah, it was hard. It was, and once again, Rob's first, not video. He's done hundreds and hundreds of those, but video series. So I felt the pressure of like being part of this thing that he finally decided to do after 3 decades of shooting. Plus, that was wild. It was a lot of pressure. There were a couple tense moments in the house. I could tell you that.
Yeah.
Nobody got injured, but it was fun.
I was hurt emotionally. I think I'm still
Emotionally
damaged. I'm still damaged emotionally.
Well, guys, so Mike's going to dry fire while we talk here. What are you working on there, Mike?
Just gun handling, man. Just working on gun handling.
See, that's how you get to be world class. Is just grab your pistol while you're doing a podcast
and always handling the gun, huh?
That's what,
always.
The familiarity you have from handling guns all the time. People ask, do you go home and dry fire? Well, I don't actually, put on a belt and a rig, but I do this all the time. Yeah. What never surprises me? The feel of the gun in my hand, the operation of the gun, inserting magazines, operating the slide. I think if more people, when they first threw their gun at the range, didn't go, "Oh yeah, that's what it feels like."
Yeah,
I think they'd be ahead of the game. So he's doing it. We all play with guns endlessly.
Awesome.
Now I'm not armed to the teeth like you guys, but I do have a pistol on me. I've got a Glock 43 on me right now, so. Of course,
we're
cleared it.
Tupperware gun guys.
That's fine. I don't care what you shoot. I got over the snobby, you got to shoot what I shoot thing a long, long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, I don't care what students show up with. I honestly, between you and me, I wouldn't sit here and say, you got to have a high cap 1911, this and this to perform well. I've been beat with people shooting stock plastic guns so many times that now it's hard to put in your best performance without a gun you like. Okay, but one of the concepts that we teach people is it's not platform specific. You've got to be able to shoot anything. If I walk to the range and we did everybody hand somebody else your gun, shoot the demo, shoot the segment with their gun, and Mike shoots my gun, I shoot his gun. We work for different companies. It'll have something different. If we've taught you right, you can shoot anything. If you've learned right, you can shoot anything. Do I have my favorites? Oh, hell yeah, I have my favorites. But it's the same as music. I can look like the background that you guys are musicians. You got drums and you got guitars back there, and somebody probably has a keyboard. You probably both have a keyboard somewhere because you know the value using it. Well, I play the violin, but I'm so bad at it, I would never put one up on my wall, right? Because I don't want anybody to ever say, play Fiddler on the Roof. I'm like, you won't like it. But the process you use to build a skill in playing any instrument, the gun's really just an instrument. You can call it a tool if you want. I mean, that's applicable, but it's still a device that you operate, and it's the same skill. We just spend more time with our guns than we do with practically anything else.
Yeah. Well, and so you alluded to some of the questions that I want to ask later now, but I do want to, on the topic of instruction, I think that a good thing to highlight here would be, now, Rob, I'm not sure if you teach any actual classes to instructors, like certifications or anything like that, but I do know Mike does, right? Mm-hmm. So Mike, so you don't, Rob? Do you do that also?
I do, but I don't do any. I don't do any sort of certification programs at all. My goal is skill improvement, so I don't do that. I do teach instructor courses, but you think you hate me as a student, you'd hate being an instructor student at one of my classes. It's you think imagine if I'm hard on Mike Seeklander as an instructor. You imagine
we might not like that class, Aaron. I don't know.
You don't go to that one for fun.
Well, I've been to some instructor classes lately that were a little interesting by the end, but I'm just curious then, why teach instructors? So your instructors, I mean, I know that I'm coming from a point of view that I'm trying to just advocate what some people think. You know, you guys teach, you're world-class shooters, you're world-class instructors. So why would you teach other instructors? What's the drive to do that?
I know Rob probably focuses maybe on something slightly different. So our FIDC, I teach with a guy named Rich Brown, and he's a master communicator.
He's awesome.
And it is about the structure of instructing. I incorporate shooting only so they see me utilize the proper structure of instruction, like getting a what, why, how, an introduction to the subject, the EDIP model of instruction, explain, demonstrate, imitate, and practice. And then, how to rack a question, repeat answer, and confirm. So we talk about those things because a lot of that's the problem with a lot of instructors is they may be good shooters. They may or may not understand how they're a good shooter, but they probably are not really good at relaying that information. So my course is specifically about that. I would guess, and I'll let Rob speak for himself, his course is probably more about coaching and observing and catching and breaking down and distilling the fine. It's probably more shooting, divergent kind of subjects than mine is the structure of instructing.
Well, yes and no. As usual, I don't have a straight answer for you, Mike. I tend to ask more questions than I answer. And when I'm teaching an instructor, it's hard on them. I mean, it really is, because and Mike's been there. It has to be said correctly, and sometimes we drop back to, traditional ways of saying things that aren't right. And at that point, it's just got to be said correctly. And I'm pretty hard on the student when the instructor is a student. If I do an instructor class, there's 3 levels of people there. There's me, there's the group I'm teaching, and then there's a group they're teaching. So I don't really have a lot of interaction with the 3rd level, except for as example to the 2nd level, right? With me being first. And when I'm doing that, if the person can't communicate what they're doing, I'm going to clarify what it is. Because Mike alluded to it by saying there are a lot of really good shots out there that aren't good instructors. It's not that they're not good instructors as much as they don't know what they're doing. And they can often not describe it. Like Mike could sit here and probably would take about 15 minutes, but he could tell you how to operate the trigger properly in a number of shots, from a contact shot to a shot where it's very, very specific and accurate and controlled, like saying a headshot at 25 yards or a body shot at 3 feet. I mean, the operation of the trigger is different. And he could explain all those to you. Somebody else might tell you, go slow on this one and go fast on this one, which is nowhere near enough information for you to understand how to operate. The person didn't tell you what to do. They told you what the result might be, but they didn't tell you how to do it. And from a student standpoint, at that point, I got to make sure that they can do that, which makes it difficult because you can't come in with your cliches because they don't work. They just don't work. And what Mike's done is taken it from another angle when he and Rich, isn't it Rich? That's his name?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I met him a couple times. You're out here once.
You did. Yep.
Like that time you did a class and then didn't bring me in on it when you were out.
Yeah, that one time. I remember that time.
And, they're trying to teach the communication skills, and I'm really trying to get the instructor to understand what he's saying as opposed to just reading it out of a book. Because we can all, if you could gain all the information, knowledge, and skill by reading out of the book, we'd never do a class. We just do these and we'll tell you about it. But sometimes feel is the only way to understand a thing.
Yeah, I think it's the conveyance of that information in the proper methodology. And then also, Mike, you and Rich talk about it thoroughly about you also got to be able to demonstrate it as well. But the conveyance of that information is, I think, where you have the difference between a good instructor and or excuse me, better to the point, a great instructor versus a mediocre instructor.
I think there are several levels. I think Mike is an exceptional instructor, to say to the degree that there are very few that I can walk away from the line and know he's going to be good. Okay, there are fewer of those than you might think. And then there are the guys that are really good shots and tell you what they think they're doing and they're wrong. You can't learn anything from them because they'll tell you they're focusing on the front sight and they're doing so much more than that. But their description of the action is wrong. So Mike, let's put Mike at like this level, of which I only know one or two or three. I have two other three people that I'm working with who are coming along very nicely, but they're decades behind Mike because it's much harder to be a good, I don't even know what the term would be. Conveyor of information is one portion of how I teach, but you have to be able to show, you have to be able to make someone feel something. If you can make them feel something, they'll understand that better than you telling them.
So a fine point on that, you're saying almost, or maybe exactly this, an emotional connection to the thing that you just communicated to them. Yeah, that's excellent.
You know, the average student, when you tell him something, his mind by nature tries to associate with something they already understand. So if I tell you something that you don't understand, your brain doesn't like that. So the first thing it tries to do is associate it with something you do. And they'll say, I start telling you about aiming and the process of where my vision goes and what my eyes do. Your brain probably says, oh, he's talking about looking at the sights. Well, I'm really not. I'm talking about something that's beyond that. And a really good instructor knows how to drive that point home and convey to the person to get them to think in another manner. I mean, that's just one little thing. Trigger and feel and gripping, stance, arm position, structure, all these other things are pieces. So if you imagine how complex it is to do it, it's twice as complex to explain it, and it's probably 10 times as complex to get someone else to understand it. So excellent instructors are few and far between. There are good instructors out there. And then some aren't teachers, some are instructors, and that's a different thing.
Well said, Rob. Well, I want to kind of move the show into a direction that, like, audience members can gain some knowledge from the both of you. Now, Mike, you may recall when we had you on first, way back a long time. Well, I say a long time ago. It hadn't been that long, 3 years or so. Episode 14. And just to bring you into this, Rob, Mike provided us a masterclass discussion on visualization and stage prep. And so I'd like to start the questioning, and I want to follow up with both of you with another avenue of asking this question here in a second. But Rob, can you summarize your stage preparation of how you prepare your mind for shooting a stage, as far as either visualization, visual rehearsal, or mental rehearsal before you go and shoot a stage? Can you talk on that?
Yeah, but I think it'd be better if Mike told you how he perceives I do it, and then let me comment on that. I mean, I'm dead serious. I say that as I don't mean that as a smart aleck move.
No, that sounds kind of a fun exercise.
Yeah, I would. If Mike's cool with that,
I'd
love that.
We've done this before. He's far more descriptive of the process than I am. But how would you describe my preparation, Mike? In a serious note, not me screwing out with Phil.
Yeah. So in a serious note, I mean, if you were to watch, I would hate to pin it to just the stage, because if you watch Rob compete, it's like watching the ebb and flow of water. There's so many things going on, and if you're just paying attention to how he maybe recons, memorizes, and plans for a stage, you're missing a lot of it. So you may see him ebb and flow from a little less talkative and quiet to very joking. And what he's doing a lot of things there. He's actually, and when he's joking and bantering and doing different things, he's taking his mind off the match, and he's not burning all that mental energy and and he's kind of bleeding off the pressure that I would keep in my head and let it almost explode my head. But then, he'll look at a stage. He will take the advice of everybody that's shooting it, and then he has the unique perspective of having the experience of all of the things about that stage, because he's probably shot that position and that array of targets a million times. He knows by experience what's faster. So when I say that, it's important you understand how he practices. He practices. He's probably set up an array of targets similar to that, and he's practiced scoring the best depending on what sport he's shooting on that array of targets. And IDPA is totally different than USPSA, and a speed shoot is totally different than a big field course. And then you would need to look at how he is approaching a stage from his strengths and weaknesses. So, for example, he's not nearly as fast now, even as fast as when I met him 20 years ago. So now he would probably tweak his stage planning so he's constantly moving, he's gaining time in small spots. He's never wasting time because he's not going to try to outrun me, for example. But, I think that the simple answer in terms of the stage plan is once he's got that plan, he's going to run it over and over and over again in his head. Typically, he'll lock it in and then execute it pretty well. So, I think that's the simple part of the version. I would guess he's probably visualizing, probably not as much. It's more about memorizing the positions and exactly where he wants to be in those positions. Mm-hmm. But I think it's more interesting to watch how he competes than how he just visualizes the stage, because how he's competing is it's next level. And then turn the pressure on and it gets even more interesting.
So that's better than I can explain it, which is why I'm glad that you did it. For me, that's the complex answer that a student would be trying to recognize that I did. I walk up, I go through enough run-throughs till I'm comfortable with the positions I want to be at. I look at variations and options, see what's the gain and what could possibly be lost, where I'm taking chances, where I'm not taking chances. And then I come up with a game plan, and then I almost always plug in something could go wrong here, and where's the correction point for it, at that next position or not. So then I plug in variations to the program. The process emotionally, I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm nervous all the time. I can't stay in, how would you describe it, Mike? I can't stay in that focus, that highest focus.
Match mode, intense mode.
I can't stay in it for forever. I have to come in and out of it. So I have to draw it up when I need it. When they say load, make, ready, I'm pretty serious at that point. When the buzzer goes off, I don't know anything else is going on except you push the button and everything starts going. And from a standpoint of programming, I can tell you I'm never thinking about shooting ever. That'd be like asking an Olympic sprinter, okay, you thinking about your steps? No, you're not thinking about your foot. When you're playing the drums, I guarantee you're not sitting there doing this and telling yourself, okay, now I got to move my hand like this. You're not giving yourself those kind of directives. You want a sound to occur, and it's off of that cymbal, and you have to move to that position and at the right time, because you're keeping time. Keeping time is the same as shooting the stage for us. You can't think about, you feel time, right? Do you audibly hear it? Hell yes. But you're not planning it that way. And that's the same as like if you're playing guitars. You're trying to keep the beat. You can't be thinking about where your fingers are going on the frets. There's no way to do it. So I'm not ever thinking about shooting. So the hard part of the stage is figuring out the course of fire as how I want to shoot it, right? And the easy part is shooting because I'm a good shot and I've figured out how to do all that kind of stuff. Now, if I might, let me do the opposite with mine. I'm not trying to pick on you here, Mike, but one of Mike's, this leads to a funny thing, by the way. One of Mike's problems is that he's 100% focused he's probably like me. He's probably thinking about shooting when he's in his dreams. He probably wakes up to thinking about shooting. He probably goes to bed thinking about shooting. And I think the way we're wired, we can't not do it. We can't not do it. I wake up in the middle of the night and my hand, I sit here and my arm starts doing this, operating a bolt action, because I've been shooting a lot of PRS the last few years. So my brain, there's a focal thing, right? And I'll sit there and I'll walk around the house. Sometimes I used to ride motorcycles a lot. lot, and I'd walk around the house and I feel like I was leaning in the corners riding a motorcycle. And the same thing happens. But when Mike goes up there, he tends to get, he goes through a much better, and he needs to describe it to you. His visualization program is much more complete than mine is, right? I'm not Phil Strader where I say, okay, just let me shoot. Let's hope it works out. And he literally just relies on incredible skill and hand-eye coordination with virtually no plan. I'm kind of in the middle, and Mike goes in there with, if one step's wrong, then it's all gone to hell, and maybe he's not that good at recovering from that. So if I have a strength, it's like broken field running is a little bit better, and Mike's planning is far better than mine is. I mean, Mike, without jumping.
No, that's right. I mean, I will use the terms like stop markers and stage markers. A stop marker is where you're going to put your foot to set yourself up. A stage marker will get the gun into place, and those are all valuable. The problem for many years for me is I thought, man, I need to be able to think through the stage and think through the shooting at the pace I'm going to shoot it, and you can't do that, right? So what I needed to do is shortcut a lot of that and just work a visual flow. Or if I'm shooting at targets, like my previous visualization would be, okay, there's the front sight in the rear sight notch. It's lifting off the target. It's coming, and I got to slow down this target because it's a hardcover target. And in reality, I need to look at that array of targets and know I'm going to go, bam, 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 bam. And then my eyes are now going to look to the corner of the fault line where I'm about to run over to. So really, if I just let my vision lead the small segments of the stage, I'll be great. And that's been a problem. I had to realize at a point in my career, I think Rob probably told us, you can't think as fast as you can shoot through the stage. You got to let go. Let the shooting just happen. Use your eyes to guide you into position, and that's the rest. That's it. And when you're in position, you should have an idea of the array of targets. I tell my students, you should be able to kind of close your eyes and see what that array of targets is going to basically look like in that position. If not, you don't really know the stage well enough. You need to walk back up there and look at it again.
If you guys, that last segment he spoke, everybody that watches this, whenever you guys put this out, should cut that as a sound bite, and they should listen to it until they understand what he said. Not like what he said until they understood what he said, because there was so much gold in what he just told you for the process of programming and learning and memorizing. That's 30 years of top level right there. That was excellent.
Thanks a lot, Mike. And it seems from what I remember when you described the process when we first asked you that question, is it sounds like it's evolved a little bit for you. Is that true? Or maybe it was a description back then. I might have to go back and listen to it. But
you should. Before he answers, I'll bet his understanding is better now than it was then. He may not. Yeah, he may not do it different, but.
Yeah, I would say it had to have evolved. I don't know how long that's been, but I would never. Everything is always evolving. I just shot a match and I evolved. I shot some things. I shot today. I shot today, and I shot last night. I actually sent Rob a text last night, asking him about hand contact when he was drawing with the vest. So I'm evolving after having done 1 million draws from a vest. So yeah, I'm certain it's evolved. But the key point there, the key takeaway for the listener or watcher would be, you can't think as fast as you can shoot. So you shouldn't be trying to visualize that part of the stage. Let that happen in the small array of targets there. Use your vision and your conscious efforts to get you to the right position so you could do what you need to do.
It's a great way of saying it, Mike. You probably should tell them how I've helped you with your ability to perform under pressure over the decade.
So there's the term called VADIT, right? And the term stands for verbal abuse distraction training. And Rob decided to start using this form of mental counseling at a national championship when I had just jacked up a stage beyond all recognition. And instead of, leave me alone or saying something nice or saying, man, sorry, dude, that sucked. I think his exact quote was, well, you beep. I don't know if you guys beep stuff out in the show.
Say whatever you want.
You fucked that up, didn't you? And I'm like,
and he just called
thanks, man.
Nationals. It was the last stage of an IDPA National, and it was an easy stage. he really just had to kind of, bang, 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 low, bang, 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 bang. Hey, thank you for the trophy. And he literally snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. And I was so, even then he beat me. So I was so shocked by the occurrence that I couldn't keep my smart ass sight saying, "Oh, man, you really fucked that up."
Bad.
And without the thought that, oh my God, he's probably in a bad place right now and sensitive, because we really care. I mean, we really care about the performance. And so he put a term to that. And then the next year, this is honest to God truth. The next year, I harassed him on every stage we shot. Every
That's true.
single stage. And the psychologists out there can try to figure out what the process was, and I understand why he did it. I know I was trying to break him from a thought process where he stays in it too long, and I made him engage me. I'd say stupid shit, and I would just try to piss him off, which in the past I could always piss him off. And then when you get pissed off, you get mad and you do better. So I'm saying, you know what? I don't want this to be fun for him. I want him to perform better. So I started doing that. And it's funny because then he slaughtered everybody at that next national. It probably wasn't any fun for him, but now he looks back on it and goes like, yeah, that was fun winning the match and shooting the high score. And then I was nice to him a couple years ago at a national.
Yeah.
And look what happened.
He screwed up, yeah. Here's the real truth is I just need to get over myself, and that's what Rob has helped me do. I am a serious person by nature, detailed, serious. I've had to really work at this.
100%.
A lot of people will be like, Rob is a natural. He's not a natural, guys and gals. He works. If you know how he practices and works at this stuff, that's all he does. He's devoted and given up everything else. I mean, he'll tell you. Family, everything. He's given up a lot. So he's not a natural, but I think a lot of this of competing has been easy, and he won national level earlier. So when you do that, it's like you're over this hump. So the real truth is I just need to get over myself, and I still do. So I'm still learning that. I'm like, get over yourself, dude. Just chill. And that's what he has helped me do. And, this year at the Nationals, I'm sure I'll feel some pressure, but I'm going to have a lot more fun this year. I guarantee, because win or lose, I'm going to try to enjoy it as much as I can without screwing things up.
It's 2 weeks from now. How do you want me to be? Not that I'll take your advice, but
I don't care what you do. You can't mess with me, man. Do whatever you want. That's the point. I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter. So we just, he'll.
That's what I want. That's what I want. I want you not to care.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, we're sitting here just a bit over an hour, so we probably will start moving towards the end of the show. Aaron, how about you? We want to talk a little bit of gear with the guys.
Yeah, Rob, our show, we've mainly tried to be the serious guys talking about training, etc. But we've just kind of embraced the gear thing lately too, because it's fun for us, it's fun for listeners. But you guys have already been talking about your guns, and I think you both have at least 5 or 6 guns on both of your desks, but so it's still interesting because if I could put a point on it, I've got a specific guitar that is my favorite right now. Mm-hmm. Right? It's actually in the case because I had it with me today. But what is your current favorite competition pistol? Or at least, if I know that's hard to answer because, again, I can't really answer what my favorite guitar is, but right now I can say you which one it probably is.
Want me to go, Mike?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, if we're talking about a genre of guns and a type of gun, I would say it's going to be a 1911 in the suitable caliber for the division it would be competent in. In a specific one, if I were to line up all the guns that I'm currently using in different divisions for different categories, it would be really tough to pick the one that I like the best because, like, the next match is IDPA and the division I'm shooting is CCP. So right now, my favorite gun is the gun I'm choosing to shoot in that division. Mm-hmm. But if I was if I was capable of stepping back, it's certainly not the gun that I shoot the most through the course of the year. If I was stepping back, it would probably be associated with success. And a single stack 40 custom shop 1911 is probably my category of favorite. And the one I shot the last couple years in is probably the best one. Best is a hard word, but it's probably my favorite one, where after 40 years, I've finally got a gun that I like so much that I don't want to shoot the other ones that are like it. And that gun is a 5.4 inch barrel, bull barrel with a bushing, 40 cal, with a heavy dust cover and a squared trigger guard, 1911. I don't know where it is. It's laying around here somewhere. And that gun, I've had in service longer than anything else I'm shooting right now, except maybe one of my Bianchi XDs. And that would be, if I had to pick the one gun that I could sit on the table and look at. I mean, you guys know what that's like. You sit at different angles. That gun looks good this angle. That gun looks good this angle. It feels good in my right hand. It feels good in my left hand. The trigger pull always feels good. I hold it up and it points right where I want. It's controllable. It's accurate. I don't miss with it. So, I mean, that would be the one. But it'd be hard to say, okay, which one would you shoot all the time? Or which one, if you had to get rid of all of them, I can't do that.
Well, I want Mike to answer that question next, too. But I just have to say it's hilarious as you describe that. I've got 5 different tube amps in this room and 8 different guitars, and I will say what guitar is my favorite right now, or what's my favorite because of the gig I'm playing this weekend. And I really couldn't pick a favorite. It really is just, okay, what is my favorite right now? Well, this is it right now, but it's probably going to be different tomorrow. So that's fun. I relate to that big time.
We can't live with one. Ask a golfer which is his favorite golf club. Mm-hmm. The guy that's a great putter will tell you, I like putters, but okay, so get rid of all the rest of them. Well, I can't do that. Probably the best would be to not care about any one of them. It'd be great if I liked them all or didn't like any of them. I can't go there. I don't know how to go there.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's it is kind of division specific too. But I'm also very attracted to guns that just perform well in my hand. Like when you pick it up, it just, like Rob said, it points well. And also in full disclosure, I am into looks as well. For example, so I'm shooting this is the Wilson Combat top end, the SIG heavier bottom end with the Delta point. And I have another one of these with an SRO on it. And the SRO has a brighter dot, but for the longest time, I would not put the SRO on a gun like this because it didn't look as cool. I didn't like the way the optic looked. I know that sounds so stupid.
No,
but
it doesn't.
If I shoot a gun and it shoots and returns and just feels good and feels good in my hand and ergonomics. I could talk about the REAP test I wrote about in one of these articles or books. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. This little gun, I actually got this one out because, and Rob actually saw me do a demo at this year's spring bigger circle class. We're 20 or 25 yards. It was a 5-shot drill, and he said, go fast now, and I went fast. I don't have any idea what the time was, but it was with this little gun that will soon be my carry gun that just shoots so good. I mean, Wilson Combat just released the what they call the solid frame, what feels better in my hand. It's a skinnier. So it's a 1911 style gun. I love some of my 9mm 1911s because they just shoot so soft and good. I have to say that I think Rob and I are in agreement. I don't like the 40s as much because the recoil's a lot. It beats my hands up a little bit more. Iron sights I used to love. I'm kind of irritated by now because my vision is going just a little bit. Although that doesn't matter a ton because I tend to aim them almost as good unless the shots are really hard and maybe I need to shoot at the national level. They just shoot so good in my hand. I mean, I shot 1911s forever, so I don't know. I have a hard time.
That is pretty sexy there.
So Mike, that's a hard frame or metal frame SIG module. Is that what that was?
Yeah, so this is the Wilson Combat upper with the SIG heavy frame, and then I have another identical gun that has our Wilson Combat lower, but it's a little bit lighter. So I'm going back and forth, playing with different weights. And, as you all know, full disclosure, I'm sponsored by Wilson Combat. But I'm lucky that they tend to work on a variety of guns now. So we have, custom Berettas, we have Glock customizations, we have the SIG 320 variant, we have 365, of course, an incredible line of 1911s, which I've shot the most of. But it's hard to beat that. First of all, as a sponsor, I'm not going to toot their horn for products. They're good products, they're great products, but they treat me good. Like, they treat me really, really good. If I call and say something's wrong with something, they start working on it. And I actually learned that from Rob. He said, if you ever have a sponsor and you call them and tell them that something is not right with their product, and they tell you just to get over it and they don't work on it or solicit your feedback, get rid of that sponsor. Don't shoot for that company. And don't ever shoot for, a company that you don't believe in, and don't take free stuff and not use it, like I did one year, and then Rob yelled at me because I wasn't shooting one of the guns he sent me. By the way, that might have cost me another Still Challenge win because he got in my head and made me feel like a shithead. But those are my favorite guns for now. But yeah, that's
cool.
a tungsten infused frame on it, and then of course we have our lower as well. That's a beautiful lower.
Well, I think the point is there's a number of guns that can do all the things you want them to do. Mike, most people would think that I prefer iron sights because the vast majority of my success has been with iron sight guns. I'm really good with iron sights. I don't gain much with an optical sight in a competition environment where we know where the target's going to be. And its biggest advantage really isn't that anyway. I hold the gun the same with both. And if you look at what just the optical sight thing, and mark my words, optical sights are better in almost every measurable category, and you can love them or hate them, use them or not use them. I don't care. These same noises were said on carbines 15 years ago. I'll never put a carbine on. I'll never put an optical sight on my M4 because it's not reliable. Now, most of the units I work with don't even have backup iron sights on the guns anymore. They don't want the real estate. And the same as with pistols. So it's interesting to hear his description because he's picking the guns he's shooting at the next national. Mm-hmm. There's no way for it not to be that way. And when that begins, what's after that, Mike? I mean, what's the next event for you?
Well, after this one, that'll be it for national. So then I'll go back to teaching. Just kind of general playing, testing, training. Then they just released the new nationals, Rob. I don't know if you know that. So like next year, it's really kind of weird. I think June is Carry Optics Nationals, and then Iron Sight is later on in the year. So I'll continue probably for the winter, but I'm also running a lot of these optic guns because I'm teaching with them, and like Rob just said, they're absolutely here to stay. Like open enrollment classes, 60 or 70% of my students are showing up with optics. So, I'm going to teach some optic specific courses. I shoot them a lot. Some of the government guys carry with the optics on the gun, so it's a no brainer, and it's a dot, so. There's no visual issues. We get to look at the target, don't have to worry as much about maybe some visual problems and stuff. So,
well, I shoot iron sights at the next national, and I'll bet money that I don't shoot iron sights the rest of the year. When we finish the IPA Nationals in 2 weeks,
exactly,
I'll be on optical sights for the rest of the season and the rest of the shooting year anyway.
Well, I'm a new convert. Aaron knows this. Aaron had his early cataracts fixed. How long has it been, Aaron? 2 years now?
It was just into last year.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
okay.
It's been almost a year. Mm-hmm.
And so it made a huge difference for him, and I just hadn't pushed that direction. And I just really got into running optics. And the first time I ran them under any pressure, Aaron and I took the Rangemaster Advanced Instructor class, and that was the first time I'd run it with pressure, and I am convinced for certain that they are the way to go for me. Just like you mentioned, Mike, Aaron can attest to, we're all getting a little older, and my vision definitely isn't the same that it used to be.
Well, it helps the vision issue, but in the reality, I think it helps the competitor less than it does the real world shooter. Things I've noticed is that people are more aware of they shoot well and are more aware of the result of their shots with optical sights because they get to see the result of them. Whereas the guy that's fixated with seeing clarity in the iron sights doesn't see the result of the shot very quickly. And that's just where when I watch students where it's just night and day difference. They see the results of their actions so quickly. It's just easier. Hey, Mike, did I tell you I shot in squad when I was in Sweden? I shot on a Rogers range and I shot another 125.
You told me about that.
Did I remember to tell you that?
You mentioned that in a text message. That's the perfect score for the Rogers range. He poo-poos on. I went to Rogers one time. I did shoot a single stack 45 from concealment and shot a 124.
That's excellent.
Pretty good.
That's excellent. Did I mention I shot a 125?
Yeah, you mentioned that twice.
Yeah. So out of curiosity, and neither Aaron or I have shot the Rogers. We have a lot of friends that have. But so now, Rob, did you say that there was one in Sweden? You said,
yeah. There's a guy that has put together a Rogers range, and it's a real Rogers range too, in Sweden that he uses for training and
interesting,
mostly law enforcement. And I was there to do a class for that, and we use the Rogers range. We use it every day. I don't always go through the normal course of fire, which is the normal 125 build test, but I use the equipment. And if you ever want to see the advantage of the optical sights, have a guy shoot half the time with iron sights and half the guy with an optical sight with otherwise equivalent equipment, and look at the performance difference. Because if you've never shot a Rogers range, the target comes up for a certain time, you shoot it, and you either knock it down or you don't. And the guy shooting iron sights is slower and doesn't see the result of it as quickly. And the optical sight guys, at the end of the week, I always ask this to the class. I say, hey, if any of you guys shot optical sights, had a choice of going back to iron sights or optics, I've never had one person say, I'd prefer iron sights. And that course of fire shows it better because there's so many optical focal changes. I think there are 7 target, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 target distances. So you really can't keep everything in focus unless you're looking at the targets. It was interesting, to say the least.
Very
that
cool.
makes me want to make sure that we get into one of those and take on that challenge.
Well, you guys are pretty close. I mean, Rod, the first range is in LJ, north of Atlanta.
Yeah.
That's not too far from you. Did you say you're in Fayetteville?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Actually, in Rayford, but yeah.
Rayford. I know Rayford really well. I've gone back there many, many decades. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a goal now. I'm going to write that down and put that on the list, especially the way that you guys tout it and how much we respect you guys and others that we respect greatly that push it.
It's great.
Well, guys, it's amazing having the two of you on here. This has been an epic show. Now, we just got to close this out with the most important question on the show, and this is for Rob because we've already stumped Mike with it. And that, Rob, is what are your 3 favorite bands and or musicians?
Well, AC/DC is the greatest band of all time. That's just the fact. So you can argue all you want, but you're wrong if you don't agree with it. After that, I have a number of favorites that are almost song content. I love Judas Priest, no matter how much you love or hate Rob Halford. Priest is way better than those other guys. And after that, I have a lot of classical stuff and a lot of blues that I really, really like. I like Bill Withers a lot. No, I don't think I'd like any of those people socially, but you know what?
Well, so 3 is just to get the ball rolling, and that's for people that don't want to talk about it much. Name a few more.
As far as groups that I really like, well, let's just look at my Spotify thing. Let's see who's on there.
Let's do it.
This is the easy way. My wife says, "Really, you're going to play that same list again?" Well, yes, the ones I like. Let's just go see Rob's reel. So we've got Bill Withers, Stevie Ray Vaughan. If you don't like Stevie Ray Vaughan and you're a guitarist, you're busted in the head somehow, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
lots,
yeah.
lots of Pink Floyd, especially some of the middle stuff. So not a lot of the old stuff. I like a lot of the "Learning to Fly" is one of my favorite songs. That's a make me cry song. Judas Priest, Judas Peace. I got "The Weight" by the band. I think Levon Helms died.
The band? Mm-hmm.
He died just a few years ago.
Yeah.
Lots of Bee Gees. That's one that'll throw everybody, especially anything where Barry's up there. I love that squealing. There's some Eminem, Journey, Rolling Stones, Commodores. I love some Molly Hatchet. Not all of it, but there's a couple keepers. There's the Righteous Brothers, Little Big Town, and some Leonard Skinner. That's just right off the top, going through what my, everybody's got their. You have songs you wake up to, and it runs through your brain.
Yep.
Or is that just me? Is that my sickness?
No, that happens to me all the time.
"Gimme Shelter" is one of those songs. Like, the guitar intro to "Gimme Shelter." Dun, 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 dun. That piece, I wake up and that plays in my head. I don't know why. I can tell you why. I don't listen to the whole song. Once it goes into the choruses and then the girls start singing, I usually turn it off. But it's like I love that portion of that. Lots of The Who. Portions of songs I like, yet I think put out a lot of junk too. So I don't know. Maybe I'm the wrong guy because I like Yanni also.
No. Eric and I both love a ton of different music. So everything I vividly hear and picture exactly what you're talking about. And, a lot of people don't know the band. So that's cool that you brought them up.
Oh, yeah. The band, that was one of the greatest. That's an epic song if you listen to it. Don't even listen to it. Get the words and read the words to "The Weight." And I mean, it's just incredible stuff. I got about 7, 8 songs that I can't listen to around people because I'm going to cry. I can't even explain to you why it emotionally touches me that way, but it does.
You know what?
Ahead,
that's awesome you say that, Rob, because I feel sorry for people that don't have the emotional draw and feelings from music. Yeah, I'm the same way. There's particular parts of songs or particular songs that, I gotta, like you said, just not be around anybody or you're gonna be embarrassed.
Yeah, if Van Halen's Right Now comes on, I can't be around you because that one just gets me, too deeply.
Yeah, tough to know that Eddie's gone. That's for certain.
Yep, crazy.
Well, guys, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I was just going to start letting these guys go and thank them. I thank you guys greatly for your time. This has been a blast, and we really, really appreciate you guys spending time with us. It helps us greatly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been fun.
Yeah. And thanks for having me back on, guys. I hope it wasn't a problem taking a little bit of time to wrangle Mr. Rob. He's pretty busy, but we've both been traveling nonstop.
Not at all, Mike. We tell you this every time. You and Rich have been a huge supporters of us, and we greatly appreciate it. No, it was no problem at all. We appreciate your support always.
Thanks for being patient because us prima donnas are hard to get a hold of, and kind of how we are. When you got a wall of trophies like that.
Yeah. Geez.
You see those up there?
I see all the glistening.
Way bigger than mine.
I'm such an asshole.
That's true.
That's true.
Well, on that note, you guys have a great evening. And Rob, hopefully you get to take a class from you sometime. And I believe Eric and I will have a class with Mike this year. So it's amazing picking your guys' brains. So you guys have a good evening.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you, Mike.
Take care, guys.